Here's the car coming. Alright guys, a pleasant good morning. Yes, I have to wake up very early for this one. It's around 5:30 right now. I have to get up early to get a drive to go where I'm going to, so I can get this video for you guys. But no sweat, I do this for the love. Here's the car coming. I'm gonna have to go in the trunk to get a ride with this one. But it's okay. We're on location. I changed my shirt because we're gonna get into the bees. Alright, so Dr. Philbert Emil, how did you get into beekeeping?
Alright, I was introduced to beekeeping when I was like about 9, 10 by one of my elder brother, which would be the second child for my mother. He was learning trade way back in the 70s, 80s, and he was introduced to beekeeping by the person with whom he was learning the trade, and so he brought it home. I've been the closest one to him. He introduced it to me and we started our own bee business back then. It flourished for a time until he got older and his life branched off into different things. But beekeeping was always a part of our lives. We were never without at least one colony.
So what inspired you to do beekeeping?
Well, I was socialized to it and it became a part of me. It became a natural part of me, and just that love for it, that love for nature, that love for livestock, really kept me going. I am always fascinated by bees and how it is that they do what they do. It's just a fascinating thing. You look at one egg that is fertilized, it can become a worker as well as a queen. So it's always a fascinating thing. They are just fascinating.
What did it take for you to get this far in beekeeping? Because you have a number of colonies that we looked at.
I think first of all, it's the love. Anything you do and you don't love it, you will not go anywhere in it. So I think first of all, it's the love. There's also a cash side to it as well. But beekeeping, one of the things for me about beekeeping is that it's a stress reliever. You wake up this morning and you feel overwhelmed, then you can just light your smoker, start look at your bees, and that's about it. Where anything that is too burdensome or too heavy for you mentally, I'm a psychologist, and that is one of my coping skills, beekeeping.
So what do you like most about beekeeping?
Everything. There is nothing to pick from. Everything about beekeeping. The honey, the the different genetics, how the bees, how different colonies operate. Everything about beekeeping is just extremely fascinating.
So tell me about queen rearing. How do you raise your queens?
Well, I use different methods to raise queen, depends on what I want to achieve. If I want to start an apiary, then it's grafting. If I'm just doing just like a simple optic, I might use nuke, so I use different things. There are times when you'd go into a deep that is very strong and you just take out the queen with two frames of bees, and then that box will drop multiple queen cells, and you can make several splits from that. So there's not any one size that fit all. depends on what I want to achieve at a particular time. And they all work for me. Some people might say, well, grafting is the only thing that should work, but I think different people use different things for different times and different situations.
Alright. So let's say I was just getting into beekeeping. What would I need to start per se?
I think you need courage because bees bite and bees bite hot. So you need courage. You need to sensitize yourself to all of that before you think about it. And once you're over that, once that bug bites you and you are comfortable with it, you are going to need bees.
So
So you need to get rid of the fear before you think about anything else, because you'll start and run away, and that is definitely not good. But beekeeping is exciting, so there's nothing about it to be afraid of, you know. Everything has ups and downs.
so in terms of equipment, what would I need?
You need box, you need bottom board, you need cover, you need frames, you need a smoker, you need a veil, you need hive tool. I am not a gloves person, so but some people might need gloves, and you need to know that you don't have any allergic reaction to the venom, because to that sting is attached the venom sac, and once you have an allergic reaction to that, then you're going to find yourself in a little problem. Might not be the best fit.
Alright, so let's say I had 2 colonies of bees and I wanted some more bees, but I don't want to buy any or catch any. What would I need to do?
Well, if you have 2 colonies of bees, you potentially have like 10 colonies of bees. It's what I do a 2 frame of bee split. So for each nook that I'm going to start, I need only 2 frames of bees. And a queen cell, that's a colony. Put on some sugar syrup, 1-to-1 sugar syrup on them, and 2 frame of bees, 2 frame of foundation, 2 frames of foundation, a 1 gallon bucket of sugar syrup, or half-gallon bottle of sugar syrup, and that's about it with a queen cell, and you're good to go.
So when I'm making a split, what do I need to look for? What do I need to make
Well,
a split?
if it is that you're going to make a walkaway split, that you're not going to introduce a queen cell, then you need to ensure that you are seeing day-old eggs, right? Or you're seeing a day-old larva, and you must have brood at all stages, honey, pollen, because they need the pollen as the protein to feed the queen. It is called, the process is called epigenetics, where they use the same egg and produce a queen from a fertilized egg that would normally be that would normally turn a worker, but they feed it with excess amount of protein, and that cell, that egg is developed into a queen. So that is what you look for. Make sure you have food in the form of honey and protein. Nutrition is important. You can't have a good queen without proper nutrition. You must have a frame of brood as well. So you need a frame of brood, you need eggs and larva, you need all the different stages of the larva process.
Alright, so let's say I have a hive of bees. What can I get from that hive of bees?
It depends on what is in that hive of bees. But you can always make split from a hive of bees.
Okay.
Because what I find over the years, I've been in it for like about 44 years now. I've always have a box of bees. But what you find is that, or from my experience, there are bees that they are high pollen producers, and there are bees that are just better at larva. They produce more brood, all of that, And there are some bees that they are just good at honey. So I don't know how it happens, but I find in my April life, for example, this box. This box you might not get any honey at all from it. This colony. You might not necessarily get any honey at all from it. But what you can guarantee is that you'll always get a surplus of brood from it. I had it on 4 boxes last year, and the queen was all the way up in the 4th box. I couldn't reap any honey from it last year, and I tore it down, and 4 boxes came from it. 4 deep hive came out of it, all brood. So this is just a superb brood producer. And even though I went in there today, and it was just a whole lot of brood in it. Luckily, I got 2 frames of honey out of it at the corner at the 2nd box, and there was some honey in this honey super. But these for most part honey super, and this is like decoration, but this is just a brood producer. This box produces bees and honey, but that's about it. And there are boxes in here that are high pollen producers. If you look at that one,
Yeah.
it's a high pollen producers. You might find 3, 4, even 5 frame of pollen sometime in it.
Yeah.
And it's just an high pollen producer. You will not get any honey from it.
Yeah.
But it is important to have it in the April.
So, can you tell me when and how to harvest honey?
Well, we have 2 harvesting periods during the year. One in October, and one from September, October, and one from like the second week of February right back until July. That's the first harvesting period. We'd call that spring, and that's the time when you reap most honey. Later on in the year, the autumn flow is not as significant as the spring flow. But those are the 2 times. You want to ensure that the honey is fully capped, and there's no, when you shake the frame, and I'm talking for just beginner beekeeper, when you shake the frame, you should not see any liquid dropping out of that frame. It should be fully capped, and then once it is fully capped, then you know that honey is ripe. It gives you a good indication that it is ready to be harvested.
So, tell me about the pollen. Can it be sold?
A pollen can be sold, but you need a pollen traps.
Oh, alright. How do you extract beeswax?
Beeswax, you have a process. If you have the wax melter, then you would put your cap in and your wax. There are a lot of times when we remove the drone comb from the frame. I think we use the removal of the drone comb as a mild control technique. So a lot of times we do that, and then that provides you with a lot of wax, a lot of comb for wax production, or you can boil the comb and strain it and have your wax.
Alright, so if I'm going to raise bees, going into beekeeping, does the location matter where I
You need a
put
good
them?
location. Definitely need a good location.
Elaborate.
The location, I think the location is probably one of the most critical thing in beekeeping, honey harvesting. I think it is very, very important, because you can have the best genetic, but they don't have any good foraging area. So you have to ensure that you have a location where there's a good cycle of flowering right through the year. So if you are in a location where you have trees that bloom only, the flower only during spring, you're in a bad way. You need to find a location where there's a good flowering cycle that goes throughout the year. That is something that you have to pay attention to. You know, even the weeds, you have to be in an area that you have weeds, and you have to pay attention to the chemical outlay that is used around your bee apiary. And you have to pay attention to other farmers, because the survival of your apiary is very important, and a critical part of that is the number of other farmers and the size of their colony. You know, when you talk about beekeeping, you must talk about sustainability. You know, and that has many stems to it, but you know, I think that is one of the critical ones. Because if your area is overfed, then you are not going to do very well.
Okay. So when you're placing your hives, does the direction that the entrance is facing matter?
It matters, because if you face your hive, and this is something that we have to understand, you know, there has to be a general understanding, because you want to face your hive where it turns down the hill, for one, so that it is easier for the bees to come in. You know, it takes less work, it puts less work on them when they are coming in, and they are coming in heavy. If you turn the hive mouth up the hill, it's a lot more work, and you'll find the bees struggle a lot. Your colony size might keep dwindling, because you overwork the bees. So you want to, and another thing too is that the bees, the here bring the smell of pollen, the smell of nectar, all of that, the wind carry it, and so it gives them that added push. It's like a plus. So you know that it's a lot easier for the bees. Because if you look here, there's one section of the apiary here, and there's another section up there. And for most part, that little section up there does a lot better than this section down here. Right? I don't know why, I don't know what about it, but that section does a lot better than this section. The overwinter, much better up there as against down here. Right throughout the year, that section does a lot better. That elevated section does a lot better.
So, what does it take to maintain a hive of bees?
Well, it depends on which angle you speak to maintenance from. If you speak to maintenance as it relates to nutrition, you definitely will need your supplement, you know, your sugar syrup, your pollen, your supplement pollen, you know. If you speak to in terms of changing a queen, a proper queen cycle, then you know that you'll have to pay attention to the queen litter pattern and see, because a queen being a year and 6 months might not necessarily mean that that queen is going to do what you want that queen to do for the next only period. So you have to pay attention to that. So you can look at maintenance from several sides, from nutrition, from harvesting, from colony maintenance. So you look at the whole thing of pests, mite, hive beaker, and diseases, you know, chemical usage within your area. So you speak to a lot of things when you speak to maintenance.
Alright, so how do bees impact our environment?
Einstein said many years ago, if we lose all the bees in the world would not last for more than 4 years. I think it is much less now with the increase in the size of population. When you look at crops production and all of that, then beekeeping is just significant. Pollination is a big business in the United States and elsewhere, you know. So our food depend on beekeeping. Almost everything about life is going to depend on beekeeping. Honey has so much properties in it, you know. So everything about beekeeping, you know, is about sustaining health and a healthy lifestyle. It is part and parcel of it.
Say I want to get into beekeeping full. Can I earn a steady income from beekeeping?
I think that will depend on you. But generally speaking, yes, you can fetch a good living from beekeeping, but it depends on the individual how willing they are to invest themselves, to pay attention to all the different pieces, you know, and really to just adhere to best practices. Because unless you pay attention to best practices, and not just best practices according to opinion, best practices according to what exists elsewhere in the world, so you take best practices out of your circle, your own environment or community, and you look at best practices right across the world. So you have to immerse yourself in it, and you will earn a living from it.
So
It's a good source of income for me, as I
yeah.
say, I'm a psychologist, but it's also a good source of income.
Alright. So there you have it, guys. Psychologist during the week, beekeeper on the weekends. And thank you again
I do
for
beekeeping right through the week.
thank you for having me, Dr. Emil.
You're most welcome, sir. And
Alright.
thank you for the invite as well.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Thanks.